Heels, lace, pearls, and still hotter than every alpha male on screen. What happens when South Korea's most famous men show up looking like fashion rebels and end up rewriting the very idea of masculinity? This isn't about labels, it's about expression, presence, power. Each outfit, each pose, each performance says, I'm not here to fit in, I'm here to be seen. So now we ask you, is this fashion? Is it art? Or is it a quiet revolution in plain sight? Let's talk about it. If you've ever seen J-Hope take to the stage or anywhere else, you've seen the living definition of joyful self-expression. He's more than just a rapper or a dancer for the world-famous boy band BTS, he's a walking, talking art gallery. The first time J-Hope confidently strode out in Dior at the Grammys, social media nearly exploded. Twitter exploded with the hashtag Tash King of Queer Style, trended globally. Not because he made a statement, but because fans saw in him a style that felt fearless, fluid, and free. His outfits, a mix of bold colors, patterns, and cuts, are more than fashion. They're a clear and powerful statement that celebrates freedom, confidence, and an unabashed authenticity. Tell me, have you ever looked at one of his outfits and thought, I could totally pull that off? Or, like me, have you ever smiled and said, only J-Hope could pull that off? Let's talk about his dance moves. J-Hope doesn't just move to the music, he becomes the music. Every spin, every sharp flick of his wrists seems to defy conventional masculinity, breaking down barriers with just a mischievous wink and a bright smile. Remember his breakout solo performance on Trivia Just Dance? The playful, flashy energy he infused into his moves was infectious, creating space for queer fans around the world to see a mainstream idol proudly embracing elements that are often considered unconventional. His expressive gestures aren't subtle. They're bold, dramatic, and full of expressive charm that fans and critics alike have praised. Vogue even hailed him as the BTS member redefining masculinity through fashion and dance. And seriously, who hasn't caught themselves secretly practicing his signature moves in front of a mirror, hoping to channel even a fraction of his radiant confidence? But here's the thing, J-Hope isn't just serving fashion or dance moves, he's serving a vision of a more inclusive world. His mixtape Hope World represents exactly that. A hopeful, vibrant universe where people can exist freely and joyfully, without limitations or judgment. Songs like Daydream aren't just catchy, they convey a deeper message of self-acceptance beyond societal expectations. When he speaks in interviews, his heartfelt encouragement for fans to express their identities authentically resonates deeply. His constant shout-outs to queer artists and designers like Virgil Abloh only reinforce his heartfelt appreciation. So let's get real. Do you think J-Hope's bold approach to style and performance fosters self-acceptance and self-love? Do you feel empowered by seeing someone like him thrive without fear? Share your thoughts in the comments. We're here to foster meaningful conversations and celebrate all shades of human expression. After all, isn't that what makes life beautiful? When Taemin debuted with SHINee in 2008, at the age of 14, he was considered the youngest member of the group, a shy, soft-spoken dancer with incredible precision. But beneath that gentle exterior was an artist with a quiet defiance. From the start, Taemin's performances stood out, not only for his technical prowess, but also for his fluid, graceful, and delicate movements, which broke the rigid masculine norms of K-pop. While many idols were boxed into a masculine mold, Taemin moved differently, softer, freer, more expressive, in a way that defied his usual image. As his stage presence matured, fans and critics began to realize he was more than just a dancer. He was redefining the way male idols moved and expressed themselves. Have you ever looked back at SHINee's early performances and noticed Taemin dancing as if he were telling a story without having to shout? Do you think audiences in 2009 were ready for that kind of freedom? Taemin's 2017 hit Move marked a turning point, not just in his career, but in the conversation about gender in K-pop. The choreography, co-created with Japanese dancer Koharu Sugawara, mixed rugged masculinity with feminine grace. Taemin explained in a Billboard interview that he wanted to break the stereotype of how a man should dance. The result? A performance that was deliberately ambiguous, seductive, and completely unique. He wore sheer fabrics, crop tops, and clean lines, styles that challenged traditional male idol fashion. These choices weren't clothes, they were statements. Every outfit and movement blurs the lines of gender without explanation or justification. He's not trying to shock, he's being himself. And perhaps that's why Move resonates not just in Korea, but around the world. So here's a question for you. How do you feel when you watch Move today? 8 years later? Does it seem dated or even more powerful? What makes Taemin unique in the K-pop world is that he has never claimed to represent any ideal, but his art has opened many doors. Without ever labeling himself, he has created a space for performances and aesthetics to be seen and respected. In an interview with Marie Claire Korea, he shared his desire to touch people with his stage presence. Not to conform to expectations, but to explore deeper things. His fashion choices, from genderless runway looks to subtle makeup, are always aligned with global queer fashion trends while remaining true to his identity as an artist. He doesn't explain himself. He lets his music, image, and emotions speak for themselves. And in doing so, Taemin has built a stage that welcomes the complexity, nuance, and softness of masculinity. So let's find out. Does Taemin's influence reflect a broader shift in K-pop toward gender neutrality, or is he an outlier? If you've only known Sehun since the early days of EXO, you'll probably remember him as the quiet guy, the youngest, always calm, always well-groomed. But here's the catch. Behind that calm exterior is an artist who is quietly rewriting the rules of gender expression, one outfit at a time. And no, this isn't some fan fiction hoax. This is Sehun, using global runways, magazine covers, and red carpets to convey messages that are more powerful than words. Remember his 2021 photo shoot with Esquire Korea, dressed in a soft pink silk shirt, hair slicked back, pearl earrings dangling playfully? He's not just dressing, he's talking. Sehun isn't dressing like a pretty boy. He's completely subverting the concept of masculinity. And maybe, just maybe, he's asking the audience, why not both the strong and the soft? Which makes us wonder, when was the first time you saw a male idol break the mold and felt something change inside you? Unlike some other celebrities who always show up with a flaming rainbow flag, Sehun's rebellion is always subtle. And maybe that's what makes him so powerful. In the ultra-conservative world of Korean entertainment, where stylists often adhere strictly to gender norms, Sehun has gently pushed the boundaries, without a word of warning, without an apology. At Paris Fashion Week 2022, sitting front row at the Dior Homme show, Sehun didn't just look like a K-pop idol invited to make a splash, he looked like he belonged there. Clad in a cream blazer over a sheer top, paired with tailored culottes and a tall silver ring, he didn't say a word. And yet social media exploded. Is Sehun transgender? Why does he look more elegant than everyone else? Some even called him the Korean version of Timothée Chalamet, with higher cheekbones and less talkativeness. But the truth is, Sehun isn't copying anyone. He's quietly forging a disruptive identity through fashion, not because he has to, but because he can. And hey, how do you feel about fashion being used as a form of identity? Do you believe that what we wear can change how people see us, or how we see ourselves? Here's where things get a little deeper. Sehun isn't just a model or a mannequin for luxury brands. When you dig into his solo performances, editorial work, and even his Instagram presence, there's a clear sense of duality, attracting attention while challenging perceptions of traditional style. Take a look at his recent photo shoot for W Korea 2024. Half of the shoot features him shirtless, vulnerable, draped in a chiffon blouse and bathed in soft lighting. The other half? Heavy black eyeliner, leather pants, and a pose that dares viewers to not look away. There's no denying the tension he creates between beauty and strength, between traditional masculinity and a softer sexuality. It's intentional, and it's rare. He may not shout slogans or give interviews about pawn, but his art whispers through color, silhouette, and facial expression. There's more than one way to be a man. Maybe even more than one way to be Sehun. So we ask you, dear viewer, do you think queer expression always needs to be forceful, or can it exist in the quiet choices we make every day? We believe storytelling should invite reflection, not just attention. So tell us, what does Sehun's quiet rebellion say to you? Let's discuss in the comments. We are always here for open hearts, open minds, and open conversations. Kim Namjoon spoke in a soft yet powerful voice. While the world around him moves at a dizzying pace of flashbulbs and cheering fans, RM walks calmly, purposefully, like a man who knows who he is, though he rarely says so. Over the years, his public image has morphed into something quiet, not because of what he says, but because of what he wears, what he collects, and what he refuses to conform to. Just look at his appearance at the Bottega Veneta show in Milan. Wide-leg, leather pants, sculpted jackets, soft wool shirts tucked in just loose enough to blur the line between classic masculinity and the genderlessness of high fashion. Nothing about him commands attention, and yet, you can't look away. He doesn't dress to impress, he dresses to express something deeper, something unspoken. So the question is, how often do we hide parts of ourselves because they don't fit what people expect? If fashion is armor, then art is confession. While some stars decorate their homes with trophies, he surrounds himself with paintings, works by artists known for their introspective themes, often pushing boundaries. His favorite artist? Korean modernist Hongjoong, whose art is born of loss, resistance, and quiet rebellion. RM once stood alone in front of Yoon's giant painting in a museum, and instead of taking a selfie, he posted just 2 words, "Thank you." That's who he is. There's authenticity in the texture and sincerity in the strokes. He said that art brings him peace, a breath of fresh air, free from preconceptions and expectations. It makes you wonder, what would your world look like if you surrounded yourself only with things that made you feel understood? RM has long played with shapes and materials in ways that defy conventional stereotypes. One day it's a soft pleated tunic paired with a leather jacket. The next, a sharply tailored cropped jacket paired with wide-leg pants. It's not a gimmick. It's not even a trend. It's about walking the line between soft and strong, and doing it with intentional grace. In an industry where public image is tightly managed, RM's clothing choices are poetic in their own rhythm. Simple, expressive, and quietly confident. When asked about his style in an interview, he simply said, "I wear what I feel like." That's incredibly powerful, especially when you're a global figure raised in a culture that teaches men to be themselves. So tell me, when was the last time you did something just because you wanted to, not because someone expected you to? Kim Namjoon has never waved a flag or made a statement about identity. He doesn't need to. Every outfit, every painting, every quiet museum visit is a chapter in a never-ending story. And what is that story? It's still unfolding with elegance, courage, and quiet strength. Key's story didn't begin in the spotlight or on a catwalk. It began in Daegu, a humble port city in South Korea where the skies were often gray and most boys dreamed of soccer or science, not sequins. But even as a child, Kim Ki-boom, better known today as Key, was a splash of color in a gray world. While other kids were playing, young Ki-boom was sewing paper dresses for dolls and sneaking into dance studios he watched on Japanese TV shows. That passion? It wasn't rebellion, it was instinct. He wasn't trying to be different, he just was. He followed that pull even when it led him down deserted hallways. And let's be honest, haven't we all felt like we didn't quite fit the mold at some point? Maybe Key's story reminds you of your own. Or maybe it's the reminder you didn't know you needed. That being different is often the first step to being remembered. When SHINee debuted in 2008, Key quickly stood out, not just for his voice and dance moves, but for his fashion sense that made stylists sweat. While the other members wore matching stage outfits, Key often looked like he'd raided the wardrobes of Bowie, Prince, and an alien, all at once. Leather pants, lace tops, fishnet tights, he wore them all without regret. And not just on stage. This is his real-life wardrobe too. In a 2021 interview with Dazed Korea, he explained, "I don't dress for trends. I dress for myself. That statement isn't just about confidence, it's about courage. Whether attending Paris Fashion Week in a neon green suit or working directly with designers like Charles Jeffrey and Balenciaga, Key has turned his personal style into a living statement. Vogue Korea once described him as a living manifesto of self. So tell me, have you ever worn something that made the world feel a little smaller? Because that's the magic Key taps into every time he steps out. But the art doesn't stop at the closet door. Key has brought that bold style to his music. His 2018 solo debut album Face was a bold departure from the typical idol model. Songs like One of Those Nights combine synth-pop with soulful lyrics about heartbreak. But in the music video, he wanders a neon-lit, dreamy soul in a trench coat, chainmail, and a lonely gaze that resonates more than any of the lyrics. Then came 2021's Bad Love, an album that takes inspiration from 80s sci-fi, glittering synths, and campy space opera. The visuals? Imagine Ziggy Stardust meets Blade Runner if they had a kid and raised it in Seoul. Rolling Stone Korea called it pop futurism with a personal purpose. Key didn't just release a record, he built an entire world where glamour, heartbreak, power, and playfulness could all exist at the same time. And if that's not art with a purpose, what is? Do you think artists like Key are redefining what it means to express yourself in music and fashion today? We'd love to hear from you. We don't just tell stories, we open up conversations. And in this space, every voice, every nuance, every beat matters. Are you ready to join us on this journey? Picture this, a young man in South Korea, quiet but energetic, dancing around his living room, sketching out his dreams with every move. That man is Kim Jong-un, known to the world as Kai of EXO. From the start, Kai never really fit the mold of what a K-pop idol should be. While others pursued neat formulas and safe wardrobes, Kai, well, he took to the stage in see-through tops, crop jackets, and mesh gloves, and somehow, it all looked like a second skin. He wasn't just performing, he was projecting an identity that was much larger than the pop culture of the time. From the start, his fashion choices, sheer tops, crop jackets, suggested more than just physical beauty. They reflected a desire to express emotions through visual language. So let me ask you, when you first saw him in that pink silk top and oversized pearl earrings, did you sense it? A quiet rebellion? A wink at something beyond labels? For many fans around the world, Kai doesn't just challenge gender norms, he dances through them. And the stage is just the beginning. By 2019, Kai had long since stopped dressing for his whims. Instead, he began dressing to express himself. His collaborations with Gucci, especially the Gucci's Kai 2021 collection, were more than just fashion. They were intentional. In one campaign, Kai wore an oversized vintage suit with a teddy bear handbag. A look that gently but firmly blurred the line between manly and cute. Was it bold? Maybe. Was it sincere? Absolutely. And when asked about his fashion choices, Kai once said, "I want people to feel something when they see me. Free, happy, inspired." He's become a visual poet, so to speak, writing verses from texture, silhouette, and courage. And don't forget that photo shoot with W Korea, where he posed in lace, sheer fabrics with a defiant look tempered by vulnerability. Some critics murmured, others applauded, but fans, we knew what we were seeing. This isn't a shock, it's a style story. So tell me, do you think fashion can be a language? A language where Kai speaks truths that go beyond what interviews can say? There's something magical about Kai dancing, as if the rules of the world have temporarily stopped. And maybe that's why his art feels so queer-coded, uncontrollable, and emotionally raw. Think about his solo debut with The way he moves, the way the camera lingers not just on power, but on sensuality. He doesn't ask for permission to be tender. He just is. In an industry where many male idols still shy away from vulnerability, Kai embraces it, wrapping it in choreography, lighting it up with fashion, and delivering it with quiet pride. Even during his military service, fans continued to revisit his performances, not just because he's handsome or talented, but because he creates space. Room for softness, room for ambiguity, room to rethink K-pop masculinity. He may never label himself, and that's his right. But his art speaks volumes. So let's discuss, what do you see when you look at Kai's journey? A fashion icon? A performance genius? A quiet cultural change wrapped up in a teddy bear bag and a wink? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, because the conversation doesn't end with the video. It starts with you. From the moment Taeyong steps on stage, he's not just performing, he's making a statement. His fashion isn't designed to please. It's meant to pique curiosity, challenge norms, and start a conversation. You might remember that legendary stage outfit, a pearl-embellished blazer over a mesh top, paired with pleated wide-leg pants and glossy eyeliner. It's more than a style. It's a statement, made of fabric. Taeyong doesn't mince words, he lives it. He embraces traditional masculinity, kissing her forehead and holding her hand as they walk through a garden of sequins, lace, and soft lines. And somehow, it never feels like a performance. It feels peaceful. He's not trying to shock you, he's inviting you in. Step into a world where elegance knows no gender, where vulnerability can be worn like silk, where toughness is not in boots, but in the courage to show your softest self to millions. Isn't that strength worth talking about? Let's be real. Most idols wear whatever their stylists choose. And Taeyong? He designs, sketches, and even sews by hand. When asked why he spends nights sewing and gluing details by hand, he simply replies, "I want the performance to express who I am." And who is he? An artist whose strokes are his canvas, a dancer who paints with his movements, a dreamer who wears his emotions on his sleeve, sometimes literally, with hand-embroidered lyrics, doodles, or hearts embroidered on his clothes. One moment that stuck with fans was when he took the stage in a deconstructed suit, stripes paired with chiffon sleeves, and the back replaced with sheer organza, revealing his tattooed spine. It's about opposites. He said in an interview, "Strong and soft, chaos and calm." That outfit says more about identity than an essay. It tells us you don't have to choose between masculine and feminine. You can be both, or neither. You can be yourself. Let's talk. When was the last time someone's style made you feel seen? Not just entertained, but understood. The truth is, Taeyong has never labeled himself. He doesn't define himself. He doesn't need to. His existence as a popular male idol, confidently sporting painted nails, silk chokers, ruffled shirts, and flower headbands, without apology or explanation, is powerful in itself. It doesn't scream rebellion, it screams authenticity. Fans often say that watching him perform helps them find parts of themselves they've kept hidden. And perhaps that's his quiet legacy. He's not here to tell you who he is. He's here to show you that you don't have to explain yourself either. Through his fashion, his movement, and his music, he's created a space for those who don't fit into a box. For all the teenage boys wondering if it's okay to love pastels, for all the young artists who don't want to choose between being strong and being feminine, for all the souls tired of asking for permission to be gentle. So here's a question for you. What's the boldest way you've ever expressed yourself? A color? A photograph, a poem, a dance? We'd love to hear. This space is for all of us, no matter where we are on our journey. When we think of K-pop leaders, we think of power, discipline, charisma. But Hongjoong, he redefines power. His presence has never been about dominance, it's about vision. Since his debut with ATEEZ, he stood out, not just for his husky voice or sharp choreography, but also for his bold style. Lace tops under leather jackets, earrings dangling from his short hair, thigh-high boots on stage where most idols play it safe. These aren't sartorial choices, they're statements, and they come from him. Hongjoong has long been known as the group's fashion mind, styling his members on stage back to back, sketching design ideas, and mixing high fashion with streetwear long before it's trendy. His signature style isn't designed to impress. They were made to express. What's the message? You don't have to look like a man to lead like a man. There's a reason why Hongjoong has become a quiet force in conversations about gender representation in art. Unlike many who see as a trend, he sees fashion as a language, a space to explore softness, contrast, vulnerability, and resistance all at once. At times, he's decked out in velvet, nail polish, and silver rings on each finger. At other times, he's wearing oversized denim and cropped sweaters with feminist slogans. His DIY fashion line, where he repurposes old clothes into personal statements, is not only a fun moment, but also a statement. A rebellion against fast fashion, yes, but also a nod to something deeper. That beauty, identity, and expression don't need corporate permission to exist. This authenticity, expressed in subtle details, not just headlines, is part of why fans of all gender identities and sexualities feel understood by him. He offers space, not answers, and sometimes that's more powerful than any label. Think about it. When someone, especially a male K-pop artist, constantly and deliberately chooses to blur gender norms through fashion, makeup, and movement, what is he really saying? Not with words, with actions. We're not here to label, but we're here to observe what matters. Hongjoong's queer aesthetic isn't about performance, it's about resilience. In an industry still dominated by rigid masculinity and fan expectations, he's made a name for himself by not conforming. And that's where the conversation begins. What does it mean to lead with softness? To choose beauty over armor? To say nothing directly but still say a lot? We'll let you decide. Have you ever felt more seen just because someone is who they are? What part of Hongjoong's journey resonates with you? Not just as a fan, but as someone forging an identity in a world full of labels? Let's discuss in the comments. The point isn't to define him, but to define what we see in ourselves through him. Honestly, if you've ever seen Jeonghan walk into a room, you know that fitting in was never part of the plan. With his flowing hair, angelic features, and a wardrobe that was a mix of royal rebel and runway poet, Jeonghan not only debuted with 17, but he humbled himself. While others tried to follow the mold, he leaned into a softer, more fluid style that was beautiful and defiant. And his fans? They didn't just notice. They dubbed him angelic, not because he played it safe, but because he dared to be different, with grace. Behind-the-scenes photos show him wearing silk blouses, layered, and blazers that look like they were plucked straight from a Paris Fashion Week runway. But it's not just the clothes, it's how he wears them. He walks with a relaxed stance, a knowing smile that says, "I'm not here to follow the rules. I'm here to rewrite them with lace and eyeliner." And let's not forget the way he turns every encore stage into a moment of soft light. Even when his makeup has melted and confetti is strewn in his hair, Jeonghan still looks like a character from a high-fashion comic book. And this is where things get interesting. While many idols play it safe, Jeonghan has spent years comfortably subverting gender expectations without flaunting them. Remember the "don't wanna cry" era? His voice is raw, his choreography is sharp, but your eyes are still on him, sleek, composed, and dressed in a sheer, almost haute couture-like jacket. Then on Home Run, his pinstripe suit exudes the energy of a 1940s film noir diva. Is it jazz? Is it drag? Is it brilliance? Maybe all three. He's not flashy, he's not flag-waving, but he's doing something truly bold and understated, turning softness into strength. There's a reason Jeonghan's fan cam, just standing there slicking back his hair, gets millions of views. The guy has turned elegance into an act of rebellion. And when he's playing around on variety shows, switching between his deep, sarcastic voice and his sweet flirtations with his members, it's not confusion, it's variety. It's charisma wrapped in velvet. So the real question is it all just style, or is it something much more intentional? Jeonghan's art isn't about loud statements, it's about a presence that feels natural, intimate, and quietly empowering. He doesn't perform for attention. He performs for the fans who see themselves in his freedom. For the boy who loves pink but hides it. For the girl who doesn't want to choose between strong and soft. For anyone who's ever thought that beauty means being constrained. And when he stands there, owning every note and every layered necklace, it's not just a look, it's a message. So now, let's turn to you. Have you ever felt like you had to hide something about yourself just to make someone else feel comfortable? When you see someone like Jeonghan redefining masculinity on stage, how do you feel? Excited? Curious? Witnessed? Because that's what these stories are for. To open up new spaces, to reflect, laugh, connect, and maybe challenge some old ideas. One outfit at a time, one stage at a time, one subtle at a time. Ever since his debut with DBSK in the early 2000s, Jaejoong has not only sung but styled. While others wore outfits handed to them by stylists, Jaejoong looked as if he designed his own on the way to the stage. Silk, velvet, mesh, leather. He treated fabric like a mood, switching between softness and edginess in a way few dared. In an era where male idols were still stuck in rigid molds, Jaejoong drew completely new lines. He wore chokers before they were trendy. Eyeliner turned eyes into conversation, and a quiet, deliberate grace that made every camera lens fall in love. You could say he was ahead of his time, but let's be honest, Jaejoong was the time. And while fans roared for his voice, another group watched quietly, deeply moved by something harder to name, his refusal to dim his own light in a system built on uniformity. So here's a thought. Did Jaejoong change the fashion scene in K-pop? Or did he simply ignore the rules long enough for the system to adjust? There's a kind of courage that doesn't need to be displayed. It's just there. Jaejoong never had to raise a flag or speak out. He simply lived as someone who didn't shy away from tenderness, sexiness, or vulnerability. In one photo shoot, he relaxed in a white bathtub surrounded by rose petals. In another, he wore a tight-fitting lace top, his lips lightly painted, his gaze steady. It wasn't provocative, it was intentional. And while critics tried to label his look controversial or over the top, fans saw something else: authenticity. He wasn't flaunting his, he was dissolving it. And perhaps most powerfully, he never made it a gimmick. There were no jokes, no special concepts. Just an understanding that beauty can be fluid, style can tell a story, and confidence doesn't have to be aggressive. Even his Instagram became a carefully curated collection of blurred lines, floral robes, painted nails, candid selfies, and silk pajamas. But through it all, there was a lingering question. How could a man who looked this good and this refined still be considered groundbreaking? In a world that often demands clarity, labels, definitions, straight answers, Jaejoong offers none. And perhaps that's his quiet rebellion. He doesn't argue, he doesn't explain. He shows up. Every red carpet, every magazine cover, every performance is a new chapter in his visual manifesto. And people notice. International media praise his bold fashion sense. Designers call him a fashion dream. But perhaps most importantly, fans, especially those searching for identity, self-expression, or simply wanting to be seen, have found something sacred in his choices. So let's ask the real question. When a public figure expresses himself in ways that challenge tradition, is that an act of defiance or simply the most genuine freedom? And if it makes some people uncomfortable, then perhaps that discomfort is where change begins. Jaejoong may never define himself in your words, but he has given you the space to define yourself in his image. And maybe, just maybe, that's the boldest statement of all. And that's 10 bold artists who aren't just making music or acting in TV shows. They're redefining how we define beauty, masculinity, and self-expression. Through their bold fashion and relentless creativity, they've given millions of people the right to be different and be proud of it. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and discover more great stories right here on our channel. And hey, we welcome all perspectives, even the outspoken ones. Your voice matters here. See you in the next video.